Hey everyone, welcome to today's Huddle. I'm your host, Jessica Wills. You're probably wondering, where's Britt? We miss her too, but we have today our hockey insider, Danielle Dowenhauer. Danielle, thanks for sitting in with us today.
Absolutely, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about hockey.
Obviously, that's our topic for today, so that is why Danielle is here, and we're just gonna get right into it. The former governor of Canada, David Johnston, is pushing for hockey to be safer. So, of course, this is going to be your reaction. So he said, I'm actually quite surprised that they have been slow to face up to it. The other major North American sports have football, baseball, basketball. He went on to say it doesn't take contact out of hockey. It's a fast game and people do bump into one another, but we can take steps to make the game safer.
Here's what I have to say. If you want to start with any safety, find a way to get my eyes to roll back into my socket. This is ridiculous. Yeah, it's a contact sport. Most sports are. I have played hockey for years now, and I have been much more injured playing tennis, playing softball, playing any other sport. The great thing about hockey is the hitting is part of it, the physicality is part of it, and you know what you're getting into, and that's part of the fun.
Right. Okay, this is a question that has had me perplexed for a really long time, though. So we went to the Kings game as an outing, our whole office, a little earlier this season, and within the first 30 seconds, bam, fight. I mean, the whole crowd.
It was great entertainment.
Yeah, the whole crowd obviously loved it, but to me, it just never made sense. Like, why is a fight able to just break out in the middle of the game, which has nothing to do with the object of the game, which is to score goals?
Well, because it's partly intimidation. Think about when you're playing baseball and the pitcher beams a batter. It's to send a message to the other team, and that's what the fights are about. The fights are there to say, you can't mess with my wings, you can't mess with my team, you can't mess with my goalie. That's a defenseman stepping up and being the enforcer that says, no. That's where the fights are, and they're a meaningful, necessary part of the game.
How would the game change if you took fights out?
Well, I mean, aside from being less interesting to watch, much like, you know, hey, we're going to have a touchback in football where you start on the 25-yard line because nobody wanted to rough a passer or rough a kicker or do any of that. It's just, I guess if you took out the fighting and tried to make it more safer, it would probably slow the pace of the game. You would probably see incidental accidents that are more harmful than if people were just playing the way that they learned to. And it just, I mean, I got to think as a player you wouldn't want to do it. You don't want to change the style of game that you've been playing your whole life.
For me, there's just so much research out there now about concussions and everything that happens, you know, years from now when you're suffering these concussions. I mean, football, for example, like that's the biggest contact sport that we have, and they're huge. And I know that they've undergone so much more protocol to deal with concussions, and they've enforced all these rules to not allow these crazy hits that they used to in the past. So, I mean, what do you think about that? And as far as like the future for these players who are suffering from the fighting and concussions and whatnot?
I think that it's an inherent risk in this profession that you undertake. It's as if a cop went in and said, well, I don't want to get shot, and they have bulletproof vests and things for that. And unfortunately, you're putting yourself in the line of fire, literally and physically. I just took a puck to the chest 2 nights ago, and it happens. But it's just, I do feel for these athletes later in their careers, but it's almost, you know that there's an expiration date on the time that you can play, and you hope that you get to play through your injuries, and you hope that you don't have anything so major that it takes you out of the game prematurely. But it's also part of the game, and there are guys going out for other reasons, and in other sports as well. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I'm willing to say that there were far fewer concussions in the NHL than there were in the NFL, and the ones that were identified and treated, which you're not seeing in some of the other sports. I mean, look at what happened in the playoffs where you had guys going, it wasn't Russell Wilson, who was it in the NFL playoffs, that went into a tent to go under the concussion protocol and then just walked right out. And it was no big deal, and nobody's regulating it, and the NHL is in there regulating. The NHL is handing out fines and suspensions for people that cross-check or slash or cause harm or intent to injure. And there are so many regulations already in place in the NHL that all this is doing is taking the fun out of the sport and making a big deal out of nothing.
Okay. Well, I'm really interested to hear what your guys' take is on all of this, so definitely let us know in the comments below. And thank you all so much for joining us on today on The Huddle. Danielle, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we'll see you guys next time.